Now first up is my outdoor workbench. I built this last year. I did originally have it set in concrete deck blocks. I decided that the best thing to do was to take it out of those. It makes it too difficult to move it around. When it has appeared in other videos, I've gotten asked how the top is holding up in particular. If you watch the video, you'll know I made this out of 2x2s that I cut from 2x4, 2x6, and then pieces in between, leaving these gaps in the table on both ends. And that's mainly so I can clamp things down easily to the top. I've got all these places that I can slip a clamp in and just clamp whatever I want to down. Getting in close, you can see that the top is still in pretty good shape. I did have it covered during the winter with a tarp, and that kept the snow from piling up on it. The key to any solid wood top, be it a softwood or hardwood, is to allow it to expand and contract with seasonal changes in moisture. And I did that here with these clips. I screwed this cleat onto the base, then I made these clips that hook over it like that. Had a couple of criticisms about there being not much bracing in the base. All the table really needs is this bracing up here. It's let into this 4x4 leg. It's glued in, it's screwed in, and it's screwed fully to this stretcher over here. Also this way the stretcher is let into the 4x4 leg. This kind of a joint gives a lot of bracing on its own. You really don't need any additional bracing in there. It will be strong enough. The top is held together pretty much only with construction adhesive in the joints here. And as you can see, it's holding up well. I plan on giving this another coat of paint at some point during this summer to, give it a bit better protection. Whenever I use construction adhesive for woodworking projects, people are asking me how well it holds up. Is it going to break down over time? I think the comparison that they're making is to the older stuff. They used to make construction adhesive that you would say glue on some sort of paneling with. You take the paneling off in a couple of years and that stuff is pretty much all chalk and it doesn't stick anymore and it breaks into little pieces. Modern adhesives don't behave that way for the most part. You buy good quality stuff and you'll get good quality results. In the case of this table, I use polyurethane construction adhesive. It is a waterproof glue for all kinds of materials. One thing you got to watch though is when you're using it on wood, wood is not waterproof. It does absorb water. Water will be absorbed into the wood and can weaken the glue joint because it makes the wood expand and contract and puts stress on the glue joint. So to guard against that, it's a good idea to put a good layer of protection on it, be that paint or urethane or stain or something to keep the water out, at least the majority of the water out, to keep it as dry as you possibly can. I don't use the table as much as I thought I would. I'm thinking that when I build my addition onto the workshop, which will close in that courtyard area where there's a deck, I'll be able to move this out there and it'll be kind of behind the garage and in that courtyard. So I'll be able to take projects out of the workshop into that area and work on them out there. Okay, back to the workshop, and what I've got in front of me right now is something I started last Sunday. I came out here especially to build this, and then I don't know if I got sidetracked, but I did the cabinet doors on my wall-mounted cabinet, and that was pretty much to fill in time while glue dried on parts of this. This is a box joint jig, and it's a new design that I came up with a few months ago. I actually mentioned it on this channel and I showed the prototype briefly, but I didn't demonstrate it. What I'm going to do right now is put my little cams back in. These adjust how far the thing will travel. And I took them off because I finished them with urethane. Just going to put it on and then readjust it so that I can make try to make a thin box joint with this thin curved blade. Okay, I've got the jig itself adjusted so that it will move 1/8 of an inch at a time. I figure that this blade is good for that size box joint because it's a little bit bigger than 1/16 of an inch, so it'll cut some clearance. Now, I haven't tried this. I tried the jig first of all right after I finished building it yesterday. After I got everything tuned up, I brought it over. I put this blade in after quickly cleaning it, and I cut this box joint quickly right out of the gate. Fits like a glove. Perfect 1/8 inch box joint in this hard maple. Make sure it's up against the side fence, down flat on the table. Move the jig back to the home position, and I'm ready to go. Okay, no problems while cutting it. Everything worked well. I'm looking at the thing here, a little bit of chip out. The joint is a little bit loose, but once you get glue in there, it wouldn't be that bad. The blade may be a little bit thicker than I'd need. Maybe if I switch to a thin curve circular saw blade, these are a little bit thinner. That would probably give me, although this one has all the teeth knocked off it, that would probably give me a better cut. I think it is. I think that this is like 10 thousandths bigger than this one. So if I was to use this blade, I think I would have an amazing fit on this very small box joint. This jig really couldn't be simpler. It has a maximum capacity of 17 inches. Starting at the start position here, it can cantilever over or overshoot the base by 17 inches so that your stock can be that wide. So that's a lot of capacity from something that is only 18.5 inches wide on its own. It works in a very similar way to my old one. The only thing is, instead of a division plate that you would have to make yourself, this one uses a 1-inch threaded rod that has 8 teeth per inch, so that every time you make a click, if you have it set for that, it'll move the carriage 1/8 of an inch. Also, by loosening and turning this cam, you can adjust that to a 1/4 inch movement or even 3/8 of an inch. So for each click of the advance lever, the carriage moves over 3/8 of an inch. It uses very little hardware, and the whole thing is made out of 3/4 inch plywood, the major parts anyway. Some of these other parts, like the advance lever, the locking bar, and the other spring here that pushes the advance lever back out, are made from solid hardwood. In my case, I used maple. I'm currently making plans for the jig, and those will be available on my website. It shouldn't be any more than 2 or 3 weeks. You might be wondering, does that make the older jig obsolete? No, absolutely it doesn't. This jig does have quite a few advantages. First of all, for the most part, it's a little bit easier to build because it's less demanding on the fit than this one is. This one has to interlock very precisely. It's not to the point where you can't do it easily, but you have to spend a little bit of time making sure everything fits and moves freely. But once done, you don't have to touch it anymore, because since it's all made out of plywood, it will all stay dimensionally stable. Solid wood shrinks and expands with the seasons. Plywood tends to not do that. The other advantage of the older one is that it doesn't use a 1-inch threaded rod. Now I know that some people are going to have a little bit of difficulty finding that 1-inch threaded rod, so this would probably be your best option. Okay, I've got to put on, and we're gonna give it a try to see how it sounds. You might be wondering why I did that. I was still having problems with vibration, actually. I thought that the foam would absorb 100% of it, but it didn't do that. So I'm hoping that the spring isolation setup stops the vibrations from reaching the microphone. I'm going to stamp on the floor to test it out. I haven't tried, I haven't listened to this yet, and we'll see how much there is. Also, just as a quick point of comparison, because I had a couple of questions from people asking me how good it is really. I mean, it's a $3 microphone capsule. What can you compare it to? Well, I already compared it to the microphones that are in the camera, and it's better than that. On the camera right now is a nearly $200 Nikon microphone. What I was talking earlier, that was the homemade one. I was still having problems with vibration actually. What I was talking earlier, that was the homemade one. I was still having problems with vibration actually. I just went in and reviewed the video and thought I would do something else here. I have a lavalier microphone. Lavalier microphone, probably the best solution possible for any situation. The problem I have with it and have had in the past is it comes off, first of all. The other thing is it often rubs against your clothes, making a noise like that. But I do have it if I need it. It's just that the camera mounted microphones are a lot more convenient. You just turn the thing on and you do your stuff.